Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Welcome back to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with me, Karl Fitzpatrick. As you may have already heard, there are significant development plans in place for Rosslare Europort. Glen Carr, the General Manager of Rosslare Europort, joins me in the studio now to discuss how these plans will breathe new life into the port. Glen, earlier this year, Iarnrod Eireanns decided to engage Ernst & Young to develop a strategic plan for Rosslare Europort. So what does this plan entail?
Our plan arrived at 3 scenarios in terms of the best course of action for Rosslare. Our first plan was, we kind of termed staying in the game. If you look at Rosslare's performance over the last number of years in comparisons to other ports, it's been disappointing. So staying in the game is looking at what type of infrastructure requirements we need when you look at shipping going forward, and we all know ships are getting longer. Ships are becoming more multimodal. Rosslare is a roll-on, roll-off predominantly, and passenger business. We do some small amount of bulk. So we looked at the future modelling of these ships. You're looking at something like extended berth, currently 3 and 4, to accommodate larger ships, maybe longer ships up to 220 metres. Potential to add in a second double link span into the port. Some of the ships are becoming 2-tier, so we only have 1 double link span at the moment, which obviously would restrict us in regards to when those type of ships could come in and would have to be scheduled. Investment in IT, critically important, Karl. Rosslare Europort is a completely manual port at the moment, so everything that comes in is manually checked in and manually checked out. We really need to drive Rosslare into being a smart future port. So we're looking at a spend potentially of around 1.5 million in new technology. And then there's a broader kind of reconfiguration of the port needed as well. So we are committed over the next number of years to spend on average, just in general expenditure, in the region of 1.6, 1.8 million a year for day-to-day maintenance. And in the past, there has been some criticism of the reinvestment into Rosslare. So part of this plan, what we're committed to, is a solid commitment to reinvest back into Rosslare. The second scenario in the plan is what we've called going for growth. And this kind of is building on the scenario 1 assumptions and looking out to probably 2025. And we're targeting in that as well, apart from an additional capex spend of about 3.5 million to further prepare the port and configuration of the port. We're looking to target and grow at least 20% of sales through the port.
So Glen, what is the total investment required for scenario 1 and 2 combined, so to stay in the game and to go for this 20% growth?
So there you're looking at, I suppose, a spend initially of 16 million outlay, as well as a 1.6 million over 5 years. So I suppose what you're looking at there is about a 24 million spend over the next 7 years there.
And how are you going to secure that funding?
Okay. We have to secure the funding like I'm sure this radio station would have to secure the funding. We've put together a business plan where we'll go to the market to raise the finance, and there's various options there through the NTMA, the European Investment Banks, and so forth like that. What we are going to be doing but is very much raising the money on a strong commercial footing. The port has to operate commercially. Current policy is that there can't be state subvention into ports. So no different than all the other ports in the country. Rosslare will have to bring its business case forward, its P&L, show its intended growth, show the intended operation efficiencies and savings that will have to be achieved. So we'll be going to the market to raise that money.
And Glen, scenario 3 is large-scale investment. Talk us through that.
Yeah, large-scale investment. I mean, this is about, and I suppose, this is about an investment of maybe up to 90 million. And I suppose the big investment here is in deepening the port. Currently, at the moment, there's obviously a certain restriction in our depth in Rosslare. And to extend and to deepen the port, for instance, by 2 metres, you would be looking at an additional 60-70 million of expenditure just for that project alone. So in a large scale investment, you're talking about 90 million, and obviously the port today is turning over about 10.5 million a year. In order to, I suppose, commercially secure that type of investment, the port would need to see a significant increase, almost 7-fold increase in current revenue between now and the next 7-8 years.
Now, many will say also that Rosslare Europort is completely over-reliant on the two ferry companies. So what are you going to do to attract new business into the port?
We do heavily rely, in fact 98% of our revenue is connected to those two customers. So I am acutely aware of that situation, but I think it's important to also recognise the role those two customers play, both in terms of the movement of goods in the region, the jobs they provide. However, I think it is fair to say is that we currently only utilise our berths at about 38%, and I need to find ways to have greater utilisation of berths. I obviously will be talking to our two customers first about them increasing that utilisation, but I will also be talking to other shipping lines. We are looking at other opportunities in the port, particularly around like the trade cars. So as you know, we recently had a new sailing in now with Neptune Lines from Santander, Spain. And that is also creating an opportunity for exports out of the country. We're starting to see some trailers go out, particularly with our haulage customers in using Rosslare. We may look at some bulk traffic that can come in. So opportunities around bulk. We currently handle about 50,000 tonne of logs that are coming into the region. We're looking at maybe other opportunities around renewable energy projects that are coming on. One of the other, I suppose, very positive plans that we have is the appointment of a sales and business development manager for the port. I'm very aware that Rosslare, we really need to advertise it. We need to be very aggressive in our marketing. We need to brand it. We need to work alongside other ports in that, both nationally but more so internationally. I'm not sure we promoted in the past the port enough.
And Glen, when you're going out to the market, what is your value proposition for Rosslare Europort?
I suppose one of the key values at the moment is Rosslare's strategic location in terms of closeness to the UK, quickest sailing to mainland Europe. Our other big sell that we'll be doing over the coming months is about the ease of getting to Rosslare from the M50. I mean, what we need to do is create a thought in a haulier's mind and in a company's mind that can I move my product as quickly through Rosslare, in fact quicker through Rosslare to its final destination than what I'm currently doing today. So we need to promote about the non-congestion around Rosslare compared to Dublin, the opportunity to develop auxiliary services around the port is a selling point for Rosslare that may not be there for other ports.
Glen, funding is the lifeblood to growing Rosslare Europort. Now, there was a call from government under their Ireland 2040 programme, which committed €110 billion to upgrades to state infrastructure. Did Iarnrod Eireanns submit an application for Rosslare Europort under Ireland 2040?
Yeah, just so, I mean, obviously we have a certain protocol as is in terms of our structure. So an application for inclusion as part of the overall Iarnrod Eireanns plan for the allocation of funding was made, and Rosslare was included in that, which would have went to the Department of Transport and through that way. But obviously now as well we're in even a stronger position now, because I think for the first time in a long time we kind of have a clear plan about where we want to take Rosslare. We also have obviously funding requirements around that plan. There's also the issue of Brexit. So, I mean, Brexit does present opportunities for Rosslare to be included for potential funding.
And I want to come to that in a second. But can you tell us specifically, in that Ireland 2040 application that Iarnrod Eireanns submitted, what were you looking for Rosslare Europort?
Well, we didn't, I mean, I suppose our general application was around the importance of the port, the role that the port can play. Parallel to that, the department was aware of the strategy and the plan that we were doing was being undertaken. And as I say, we've just recently finalised that plan, and we've just shared it with the department and with the other stakeholders. So there wouldn't have been the figures involved that I've expressed today in that original plan, but Iarnrod Eireanns would have shared our ambition to develop Rosslare as a key asset in the region, and it was noted that we were developing a further plan that would be submitted for consideration once completed.
Now, I know the port itself does not meet the criteria from a tonnage perspective to be designated a Tier 1 port, but because of Brexit, does the government have a good case, with Brexit looming, to make an application to Europe to have Rosslare Europort designated a Tier 1 status, which would then, of course, make it eligible to funding?
Yeah, it does. There's certainly I've been making that case, and in fairness, with the department, I believe that case has already been made at numerous levels, and also at different forums. So, for instance, I'm part of the Irish Ports Association group with IBEC, and the other Tier 1 ports and the other Tier 2 port, Waterford, sits on that group. And through that forum, a formal application was also made for the upgrade or the recognition of potentially of an upgrade for Rosslare and actually Waterford. We recently met with a group through the French Embassy and French ports, and equally on the French side there are some ports like Cherbourg who are also looking, because of the current situation with Brexit, for the possibility of an upgrade to Tier 1 status.
Glenn, I want to speak next to you about how you're preparing Rosslare Europort for Brexit. Dublin Port has the only border inspection post in Ireland. Now, I know you want Rosslare to be designated for these activities also. What will this mean for the port, and will it bring further business into the port itself?
When I first heard about the requirement for this, I was very vocal on the need for Rosslare to be upgraded to have this facility. Rosslare currently obviously moves a lot of agri and food produce through the port, and the border inspection post would be required where checks would have to be carried out, where food, agri, ingredients, livestock would be traded with a third country. So technically Britain will become a third country. And any produce that falls in that area today has to go through Dublin Port. So there are two aspects to the border inspection post for Rosslare. First of all, we need to secure the current business that's done in this area. That's crucial for the region and the surrounding counties. I mean, agriculture is a critical product that we trade and critical business for this country, where our exports and imports. And Rosslare has a substantial amount of that produce going through its port. So if we're not a border inspection post, my initial concern would be, would that produce now have to go to Dublin? So therefore we would actually be losing business. However, I'm confident that we will get these facilities, so therefore we secure that business that's going through the port. Second reason why the border inspection post is needed, it's probably just not feasible for Dublin to handle all of the trade in that sector with Britain today and carry out the checks. So there is a need for a second inspection post in order to ensure that these checks can be carried out, but carried out in the most efficient way possible.
You came in this morning to talk us through your strategic plan for the development of Rosslare Europort. Do you believe that this plan is ambitious enough for such a strategic asset?
I do. I believe it's a considered, it's a prudent, and it's a commercially sound investment and strategy for the port. We're within the means of commercially how we have to go and raise the money. That's not to say that if a strategic change was to happen at a government or EU level and funding was to be made available, that was to be recommended under the Brexit or state aid or some other rules, that we would not embrace that also and avail of that additional money to move quickly to scenario 3, which would be large scale investment. But Karl, I mean, and you're a businessman, so I don't need to tell you this, but when you're raising finance, you have to go with the plan that's going to secure that finance, that's going to give a return on the investment. The large scale investment today, given the growth even that we've predicted for Rosslare, and given the current profitability of the port, you won't achieve the business case to deliver to meet the funding requirements for that. So therefore, we've got to work with what we have. I mean, getting to the large scale investment would require a significant shift in the current movement of goods in and out of Ireland. And therefore, what we have to do is look at the market, look at the trends in the market, and we have to put a commercial plan together that is sound financially, that gives the opportunity for Rosslare to grow. And when we execute scenario 1 and 2 in our plan, I think we're then in a much better position to talk about larger scale investments, hopefully, that will come along as we prove Rosslare can work and as we grow Rosslare to the targets that we're setting out.
Glen, I know you can't develop a business case that could support an investment of €100 million plus, but do you not feel that the role of government is to invest in infrastructural assets such as Rosslare Europort because of the magnitude of impact that it can have, not just on Rosslare or Wexford, but on the entire country?
Yeah, and I think there's a plan there set out, national plan. I don't think we should underestimate the investment potentially that the government will be committing to for Brexit. These are sizable facilities. These are a sizable number of people that will be employed. So the investment is I think the government will be making with Brexit is sizable. But when you get into something like deepening a port for 2 metres, that could cost 80 to 90 million. I think you got to ask, are you going to attract the business, even doing that anyway? Because you got to understand where that product is moving to and from. So I'll give an example at the moment is the trade between Ireland and the UK. The greatest concentration of that trade at the moment is in the Greater Dublin area. And there are reasons for that. Obviously, the population density up there. If you think about it, that's where people will eat, will use the consumables, the food, etc. The warehousing, a lot of the warehousing is around the M50. And then if you look across at the UK, the greatest concentration of warehousing in the UK is around Liverpool, Manchester, Leicester. So there's a natural movement of product that's going to go through those 2 areas that won't necessarily change just because we deepen Rosslare. That's not going to necessarily would change the movement of those products and where they're moving to and from. I mean, you wouldn't go through Rosslare into Fishguard or into Pembroke to go back up to Liverpool. And if 80% of the produce between those 2 countries are moving in the roll-on and roll-off market segments, are moving between Dublin and that greater Manchester area, well, that's where they're going to move. So I think we need to understand and accept that.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Glen Carr, the General Manager of Rosslare Europort, and I would like to thank Glen for sharing his plans for Rosslare Europort with us this morning. We're almost at closing time here now at Business Matters, but before we go, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my production team, my guests for their contribution, and especially you as always for listening. Join me again next Saturday morning for more from the world of business, but until then, have a profitable week.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast.